Hi everyone. Yeah, we're 2 minutes early, so we'll see when people start joining. But last time I was streaming, I didn't realize since I was in Japan. The connection I was using my phone as a hotspot, and then it overheated, and halfway through it, the live stream as it overheated, the bandwidth just kept on decreasing. So I had to switch network midway and all that stuff. So now I'm back at home. Everything should just be that much better. And also this time I got two screens, so I'll be able to see all your comments and questions. So feel free to ask any questions, and I'll answer them as much as I can. Okay. All right. So it's still one more minute while we wait. So I see there's a single user at the moment. Hi, whoever that is. Okay. So now we are at the scheduled time. So let's start. So this topic, the live stream's topic, is about Momen versus Bubble, and we'll do some compare and contrast. And we'll first look at different functionalities on Momen in terms of like front end and back end, and then is a in-depth comparison to Bubble. In contrary to what usual people do, I'm going to start with in what aspects are Momen worse than Bubble, and then we'll get into where we are better. And in the end, we'll get to why or when you should choose Momen. And okay, so that's how we'll do. Actually, before that, I'll briefly mention the history of Momen. So this thing started off at I think it was 2019, and it was late 2019, so a couple months. Well, after that, COVID hit, and we only really got the web thing to work properly was like late 2022 or maybe even later. Actually, no, it was 2023. Yeah, it was in 2023 the whole thing kind of became mature enough where we found it was suitable to be pushed to general public. And so now we're this full stack no code development platform with an AI builder in it. Okay, so much for that. We'll get into the functionalities. So I've built myself a little demo, but it's ugly looking, but should get the message across. So in terms of the front end, what do we have? You may notice this looks somewhat like Framer. We have pages over here. I don't even know what this is. Okay, I actually built this. Yeah, this is the detail. In this one, you can like log in, right? So these are just widgets that you can put on. You can add more of them if you put another input box, but I don't want that. So let's make them slightly more spaced out. So margins are nice usually. And let's say we want a 20 margin around. And this guy, I just want a margin at the bottom. It's also 20. Okay, so they're more spaced out and looks nicer. And this register thing basically just triggers, once you click it, it triggers a register. So you can keep registering. So how does that do? Let's register a bunch of users. In fact, I have some users already. They're all called Jiang Yao Kai. So the last one is 7, right? So this one is quite useless. It just does the registration. So let's set as a home page. So this should refresh. So that'll be an 8. And I didn't even turn on the password thing, right? So let's turn on that password thing here. Okay, here we go. Let's turn on. And then I don't want you to see my password. Okay, so I just registered another one. You see no, you don't see any kind of output because I didn't set any. So in here I could do on success, I could do a toast. But normally you would actually jump. You would take people somewhere, right? So, but in here it's like registration complete. Okay, so that should be good enough. And then now if we try it again, this time's 9. You click, registration complete. But if you click again, nothing will show up because it actually fails because you can't have 2 accounts called Gemini Alpine 9. Right, so that's fairly simple. Okay, so yeah, so we got the page, and then the pages they're laid out as a flex box, so you can have all these layouts. These are fairly normal, and yeah, so we went through the UI design as well as we just saw some action sequences, but that one was actually very simple. You can have very involved sequences in the front end. Okay, so as I sometimes say, front end, if you take the Earth as an example, front end is a crust. That's all you see, or most people see. But it's only 2,000ths of what the thickness of the Earth, right? So what moves the crust is the mantle. The mantle would actually, they drive the plate tectonics. So in a no-code world, or in fact in most of the programming world, backend is the mantle, and then here we go. We have a very simple, in fact, let me just close that one. A really simple data structure here. We got an account which owns a bunch of to-do items. I created this sales history thing, but it was just to try things out, so you can ignore that. So this to-do item contains some fields and it has a relation. You can see account is 1 to many. One account has many to-do items, which is what you would expect. And inside here, you would see these were the things we just registered. And then these are the to-do items in here. So we have probably less than 20 of them. Yeah, we just have 20 of them. There's no more, right? So we can actually import more of it. So let's see if I can import more data. So let me find my... Okay, here's an Excel that is fairly large. It actually has 100,000 rows. I'm going to show you how long it takes to import that 100,000 row thing. I generated this. I'll show you looking to actually generate this crap using GPT. Yeah. Okay, so we import that. We'll get the to-do items 100K. We don't have a loading image here, but actually the upload takes a little bit of time because it's actually somewhat large. I think it's a few megabytes. Yeah. So the content will be content. These are all not going to be mapped. And done is going to be done. Image is nothing. We don't have an image in here. You can import images as well if you want. Accounts is going to be empty too because, we didn't really put the accounts here. And then details is that, and then we'll ignore this relation. We had no media files upload, and here is just a little portion. We don't show you the entire thing. We read like a few, maybe like, I forgot how many lines we read, but we read a few. Oh, hi, MDZN. So let's see how long it takes to import. Ready? Go. Okay, so just 100,000 rows is gonna take a little bit of time, I think. But I haven't tried this, by the way, before I live stream. Oh, here we done. Yes, 100,000 rows all in. So that is something you can't do on Bubble, because when I tried uploading 10 to 350k rows, simple table 2, but it was few years ago. 2 years ago, it took them 8 hours and a half, and it came out to be around like 9 to it was definitely below 20 rows a second. Anyway, so we have a massive amount of tape things now. So yeah, you can see the ID actually went up to 100 something. Okay, so that's that. And then yeah, when you have questions, just let me know. Life is risky. I know. I haven't even tried, Ali. I should have, but sometimes you gotta bite the bullet, and then yeah. Okay, so next thing is gonna be APIs. The APIs are they're fairly simple. You just give it a name, my test API, and let's just find some free weather API or something. And by the way, if you see any weird URLs in my account on my drop down, you know, men are men. So what do we have? I need a free. Can I get one of those? Yeah, so that. So let's just get this guy here. For example, this guy here, right? And we will import that. So we do that and put this one in, and then because of you can see we already recognized all the oh, what is this? I'll just get rid of that. So longitude, latitude. Okay, so those are the things. So let's see what comes out of it. Yeah, good. So what about this? I don't know what it actually does. It shows a bunch of stuff. Yeah, okay. So I guess that's good. We'll just do this because of the demo. I don't want to get too involved. Okay, so that's that. And then you can see what types they are. So we recognize that for you. And then we can just save the configuration. And now we're done. So now you can run this API from the front end if you want. So that's how you would import something. And okay, so next thing would be action flow, which is in our lingo, the backend workflow, if you're coming from the Bubble end. So this particular one is somewhat more involved. Yeah, this is the one that I'm using to generate random stuff in the database, right? So in the to-do item thing. So let's take a look at here. So in our to-do item, the last one is buy groceries for the week or something. You can see some of them repeat, right? So we can actually call this. Where did I leave it? I actually got rid of it. That's unfortunate. But we can actually try it out. Do I have it here? Yes, I have it here. So this is a webhook. We called it callback, which is also a bit unfortunate. We shall change that very soon. So we copy this thing. This you can come over here, and then this is just Postman, and then we'll put it in here. And that added a line in the database. So if we look at this again, it's no longer. So this is the newly added line. It just says finish report for the something, and then it has some bullshit that AI came up with. So how did I use AI to populate that particular table? So first I should really call this not AI config one. Maybe we should call it to-do generator or something. Okay, so we call it to-do generator, right? And then in here, it will be calling the to-do generator and also make it all AI. And the input is actually a dummy input, doesn't use it. And then this was insert into to-do. Okay, you can see it. Oh, sorry, I forgot to insert into to-do. Okay, so this one I just configured it to be inserting a single row where the doneness is false, and then the content comes actually from here, and the details comes from here as well. This guy's output is from AI, so we're jumping a little bit backwards and forwards, but bear with me. This is very simple. It has an input but does nothing. And then I just have said, okay, your row as an AI is to generate some to-do items, and your goal is a yeah, it's this. You guys can all read, and then be creative and aim for variety. And then in this case, we just use we don't use any kind of tools. We could, but it's very involved, so I didn't have time to prepare that. But here is just content and details. The AI in Momen can output structured data, and then that structured data is then used in here to write that data into the database. Okay, and then so we can do a couple more of these, but so that should be in here. Buy groceries again. So the AI isn't very creative. It needs a bit of spark for it to be more creative. I already set the temperature to be pretty high. Okay, so that kind of most. Oh, yeah, one more thing I want to show you in terms of action flow is we can write some, albeit at the moment a bit limited, JavaScript. This particular one converts the input, which is the ISO 8601 timestamp string, into a Unix timestamp, which is number of seconds elapsed since the beginning of 1970. Yeah, 1970. And we can take an input and we can give an output. And if you want to see how that looks like, this is why this is a thing, because my variables here, my variables, this guy is, yeah, I know this can be easier. We might just provide you with something here so you can try it out yourself, but this is the ID, and then I put it here, and if you query it, it gives you the answer. Okay, so any questions so far, anybody? If there's no questions, I'll continue. Okay, so I think that kind of mostly wraps up with like what Momen does. Now, let's compare it to Bubble. So first of all, as I promised, I'll talk about why Momen is worse than Bubble. We don't yet have front-end reuse, so we can't group. We're working on that. You can see like this is the first step, and you can make it into a custom view, but that's about it. So it's not very interesting, but the next step we'll do is we'll make into a custom view and then save it into something. And here I can convert it into a conditional container so that this thing can have multiple conditions and all that nice stuff, right? But let's undo that because it gets too complex, because then I'll lose my script. And so that's one thing. And secondly, Bubble has a way for you to reuse these flows on the front end. And that is also very important because you don't want to. So there are many times where you have shared logic in multiple components or even multiple pages, and you don't really want to do them over and over again. Even worse, if you had to change that logic, now you have to change it over and over in all different pages, and you have to dig out where you used where you want that logic to be consistent. And this in software engineering world is called DRE, dry, don't repeat yourself. But in order to not repeat yourself, this thing has to exist outside, like the logic has to exist outside the component itself. So we need a way, or we need a place for that thing to stay. So we don't have that yet. We are working on that this quarter, and if all goes well, which is highly unlikely, we should be releasing that this by the end of this year. Okay, and next thing is logs. And you can see in all of this, you don't have a place to look at logs. In Bubble, you have the logs, which are server logs, but they don't have any front-end logs. They have server logs, but I don't have anything here to show, but that's that. And then it is somewhat limited, but it's there. We'll do something. I will do something better. So we will have trace ID. So you will the trace ID can be generated either on the front end, on the gateway, or I think those are the only. Or actually, no. It can also be generated on database triggers. So if you change something and that, like, I actually forgot to show you that one. You can trigger this based on a database change, right? So in those would have their own trace ID. So you can find all the actions or all the logs associated with a particular event. So that's what's good about Bubble's blogs. And obviously Bubble also has their debugger, which we don't have yet. So in here, this is one of my completely useless Bubble my Bubble app, but I somehow turned the debugging off, but they do have debugging, so that's also nice. Okay, the last thing where we can't really, the first two we can fix. The last one takes time, and I can't really fix it. That is ecosystem, content, and plugins, right? So we don't have a plugin marketplace, which is very important for a lot of Bubble users, because if you have pre-built, I think they are doing the correct thing too, because as a platform, we can't be building everything. It's nice to have pre-made logic, pre-made UI, and even pre-made data table schemas, but we can't do all that for you. So the community has to get involved. There needs to be a proper way of sharing the profit and all that. So we're pretty far behind in that regard with when you compare to Bubble. I think those are the only things that we are worse than Bubble at. Now let's get to why we are better. So first of all, pricing. Oh, somebody just upgraded Momen, and then if you the editor will see this. One of my colleagues probably deploying. So yes, again, so in terms of cost, right? Bubble's cost, I don't know if you guys know, it's been variable since it's pay per use, but it's like super expensive pay per use. They changed the pricing, I think, last year in around April or March or something. Now, our pricing is a lot more straightforward. So we have the tool fee. I would call these the tool fee. So with the tool fee, you would get certain amount of we limit by requests per second, certain amount of requests per second, and certain amount of cloud resources, compute resources. But you can easily go into one of those, which is, and you can look at the unit price too. For 500 gigabytes of outflow, we charge $35. So that compares very favorably to, say, Xano, because people very frequently pair Bubble up with Xano, mostly, well, one for to save on cost. The other one, people say that Xano has much higher performance than Bubble. So these were actually much cheaper than Xano, and then you can also buy a single tenant kit. And how much does this give you? So to give an example, in 2021, I think, our front end was still not very nice, but the back end was pretty solid already back then. So there was a local government in China that they wanted to build a COVID screening registration app. So you can imagine that's like it's a district, so it has 120K users in a single morning. It took them 3 of these, and then per month it would be so translate that would be 120K all stuffed in the single morning. They would have to, if they keep doing that, they would pay me $360 a month only. So we have a bunch of other examples like this where the cost benefit is just massive. Okay, and then for people that are uninitiated with Bubble, I built myself a little spreadsheet to calculate how much money it costs to run things on Bubble. These are all the assumptions, and so this is a very conservative assumption. And Ali just asked, how old is Momen? Momen, in terms of technology, it's like 4 years old. Yeah, 4 years old. But in terms of actually being public, a year and a half. I think the website went live on April or March last year. I don't remember exactly. You guys can check it out on Ahrefs and have all the history. So anyway, getting back to Bubble cost. So we're assuming every day there will be 100 users, and the user only looks at 20 pages, and on each page, well, half of the pages contain a plugin, and here each plugin would run for 100 milliseconds, and on each page you would search you would do 2 searches, and each search would return only 5 rows, and then 1/3 of the pages have a watch. These are I think in Bubble, like, it's automatic if you have a repeating group. And then in terms of aggregation and group, 20% of the pages have aggregation, and then for group, 5% of the pages have that. And every day a user only deletes, half of the user would delete a thing, and then they would only update 10 things. Each user would only update 10 things. And every time you update something, there's a 10% chance you would trigger another update. Would trigger a workflow, And then that workflow would only update a single row. And the user, each daily active user would trigger 5 workflows and 10 outbound API calls. And then each API call would return you just 1,000 bytes. And then here, I forgot this one. Row size is like each row is only 100 bytes. Right? So those are very, very conservative numbers. And that means your daily WU, WU usage is 3,000. and each day is 50 cents. So that's not too bad. So what if we turn this thing into something more realistic? Instead of 20 pages, if you're running a SaaS, a user might be looking at 100 pages because they're managing stuff. And let's say every single page has 2 plugins. The millisecond per plugin seems about right. Searches per page, maybe 2, maybe like 3. And on average, each row, instead of like 100 bytes, maybe 500 bytes, still small and reasonable. Rows per search. If you are doing a SaaS, very likely you're looking at lists. Each list might be 20 elements, so let's say 10. And every single page would have a watch, and let's say half of the pages have aggregations, and every single aggregation has a group by, which is the normal thing. And then the user would update maybe 200 things in a day. And half of these changes have triggers associated with them. And each trigger would in itself update on average 2 rows. And each person would trigger, let's say 30 WUs. And outbound API per user, let's say they're the same as the number of pages they look at, so 100. And this one, let's say 2,000. Okay, so how much you be looking at? So you're looking at $200 in terms of WU cost. Sorry, I got stand up things. So that's looking at 100 DAU, right? So what if you have 1,000 DAU? Obviously, that goes to $2,000 because that's all linear. But I can tell you with 1,000 DAU, I've never seen anyone in Momen with more than less than 1,000 DAU using more than a single tenant. So that's $120. So any questions regarding that? This is just some. In fact, I might just share this thing so you guys can copy it. Wait, what the hell? And it was link is a viewer. Yeah, so you can copy and I posted on the chat so you guys can take a look. Okay, so that is that. If you have any questions, just let me know. So next thing is performance. I've just shown you that importing 100,000 rows in Momen took like 20 seconds or something like that. Can we talk about DX? Can you elaborate? Ali, can you elaborate on what aspect of DX you want to discuss? And then I can get to that. So yeah, in terms of performance, let me just show you an example. This guy, right? This says Functor-Z, but that's built by us as well. So this is actually a code component. This whole thing is not built by no code. These two are no code, right? And the data is the same. They go off the same backend. And the if I choose to filter, it will actually get narrowed down. And similarly, if I do this, you get into a single cell. Okay, so if I get rid of all that, and then you look at this guy, the data itself is like 480 rows. So to fetch that 480 rows took 186 milliseconds. So Momen has no problem dealing with hundreds of rows, at least on the back end. On the front end, if you do crazy stuff, there are ways to get stuck. But dealing with hundreds of rows in one go is no problem at all in Momen. Also, if you look at the payload, look at the actual response, you can see it only returned 3 rows instead of, sorry, 3 columns instead of everything. The actual data looks like this. This is 480. Well, I don't know why it's 481, but anyways, this is the actual data. And you can see we did not fetch ID created at or updated at because that's not needed on the front end. And that we do automatically. Okay, so and also same goes for relations. If you have very complex relationships, say your account is associated with 10,000 or even a million. In fact, there are cases that do have million associations. In that case, you don't have to worry about performance at all, because if you don't need it, they're not fetched. They're not even touched in the database. Okay, so yeah, and also this thing I forgot to mention, but they also interact with the no code and the code part. They do interact, and yeah. So next thing, let's try to do one more thing. Let's do something crazy. Let's set all the to-do items to be done, right? So that's going to take you a while. This is 100,000 rows. Let's set them to be all done. And how do I do that? Let's do this. We'll create an action flow on the fly. The 100K challenge. So it has no input because we're just updating stuff. Let's give it an input. Let's say we'll do. Nah, that's actually not useful. Let's just update data. We'll change. Call this all done. No, so let's give it an input. So done or not, and we'll make it a boolean, as in bubble land it'll be yes or no, but I'd rather just stick with more conventional names. Okay, so that does that, and then this would wrong update, very bad me. Wrong update. Also to do item, I was updating all the accounts. Done or not. Okay, so that should be it. And we'll save it and deploy it. Why is it not happy? Oh, conditions not valid. Okay, so it's trying to prevent me from IDs not null. That basically means, yeah, so that should be good. Okay, and we'll deploy the backend. And we can call this guy the same way we called the previous one. So action flow that, done or not. And let's make it all true. I've never tried this. Let's see how long it takes. and whether it will blow up the whole thing if I update 100,000 rows in one go. Yeah, that's done. 5 seconds. And let's go to the database and check out. These are all done now. Yay! Now let's, for the giggles, let's change it back to all false. Ta-da! Okay, 5 seconds-ish. I understand it's developer experience. I mean, like, what exact aspects you want me to go into? I can certainly go into them because I'm almost done with all my pre-planned contents. And if you do this on Bubble, it's gonna take very long. And I've tried updating 10,000 rows like this guy, adding 12 to each of them. This interfield, it has 10,000 rows took me 80 to 88 seconds. So that's the performance difference. And the other thing we do is if you haven't yet noticed, we have native SPA. So this entire thing is an SPA. So if you go to back here, you can see there's only calls to the backend. There is no call to fetch the HTML, but we do also support server-side rendering. So if you actually typed in the entire URL, sorry, and you look at here on the right, oh, whoops, sorry, I forgot to get rid of the filter. This is actually rendered on the server, so you can get all the necessary server-side rendering niceties if you want. So these are all, you can see these are all constructed HTML. And then just to prove that I wasn't bullshitting, so if you click into here, everything here is, there's no HTML fetching. So this is a legit single page application, and all the go-tos on that you set in the editor. Yeah, that's like we do the proper SPA. And lastly, the code component. I was just about to get it to work, but unfortunately, I think I've got a bug somewhere, so I had to use a pre-built one, which is this. But otherwise, let's just look at what my code component does, right? So this was, I just published it, in fact. This is just normal React. In fact, that's just it. This is the React component. Let's make it bigger. Okay, so the only thing that's special is this thing. Your component has to expose a property that has those three things: prop data, prop state, and event. What do they mean? Prop data tells you, or actually tells the editor, I call it component S, what to show here. So you can bind things onto the component. Prop state is what this thing exposes for other parts of the page to use. So in this case, it exposes nothing, right? It takes city name and year, and that's what it takes: city name and year. And the last thing is what kind of event it takes. That controls what shows up here. But since I have declared this thing takes no events, nothing gets shown here. Other than that, everything else is just normal. It's just normal React. There's nothing fancy about it, and then you can just write all normal React. And if you want to interact with data on the back end, let me see. I think this guy. Yeah, this is a different component, by the way. You can have the authentication and all that stuff taken care of for you. We also are working on code generation for typing, but this would give you a query component, a query function that lets you interact with the backend. And things like navigate just takes you to different places, so you can initiate navigation within the application as well. Discover lets you take an ID and fetch and find it on the page, and we do that. We handle that for you, and then this component is basically one of these. You can get one of these, and then you can issue events to that component, so that the component, you can control components on the page using your code component as well. Okay, so that's all I have with code components. If anyone has any questions. Any agency account with team management? We don't exactly have fully built out team management, but you can manage who has what permission here. So we only have 3 levels: viewer, editor, and manager. And the manager can kick people off, obviously, and then can add new guys. And then editor can change things and look at the database. Viewer can look at the design and nothing else. Actually, they can look at the data model too, but they can't look at the database. And those permissions are set on the backend. So even if they have the API to look at so obviously this would issue an API to the backend, right? So if I go to here, this generates an API, and then generates a network call. But people with a different permission in here won't be able to see any of this, even if they have your API, because we handle all the permission stuff. Versioning and version control system. Yes, that's I forgot on that one. That's actually one thing we do worse than Bubble. Versioning, we save all the versions. We don't expose them at the moment. We might be doing that beginning of next year. That's a pretty small project. We don't have any of the merging logic that Bubble has, but we can get you back whatever you have saved. So anytime you deploy, there's a snapshot. Backup and restore. So that's also not exposed, but we do daily backups of all your data, and so you can get them back, but currently that's a manual process. You can, however, clone your thing. So some of our existing users do that. You can clone your project that goes your data. You can clone your data with it as well. I forgot if the default one here gives you data or not, but we do have that capability because that is how we do templates. We basically clone the template for you. And getting back to it, what else I have to talk about? JavaScript code blocks. Yes, we talked about JavaScript code blocks briefly. This is not, at the moment, a full Node.js environment. What that means is you can't use require, you can't have access to things that do I/O, writing to disk, or network. We are redesigning how this thing is done. One thing you can do, you can import packages, but you have to jump through a hoop. You have to use Webpack to build them first, and then copy all the code in. And none of that can use native components like file system. So those are the restrictions for now. We are working on a new design so that this would be a full Node.js compatible environment. And not only that, we'll still keep the synchronous and asynchronous open, so you can still have synchronous JavaScript running. And within any synchronous action flow, you have a same database transaction, which means if you encounter an error halfway, we will roll back all the changes you made to that database prior to that. So that's something I'm sure people using Bubble is pretty pained about, because like if your workflow dies halfway, then you gotta manually roll back all the changes that's made, and it's a pain. Okay, last thing I want to show is basically this. This is the entrance to my backend's API. In fact, if you look at any of my data access, that goes to the same URL, this guy here. And you can go to, so different from Bubble, you can introspect, you can have an introspection API. You can look at what actions there are that's available to you to be invoked. So you can use Postman if you want, but there are other things like there's hopscotch and there's GraphQL and whatnot. But these are all the APIs we have for you. Some of them have description. That's a description. I wrote some of the descriptions in Chinese, but we probably shouldn't have. And some of them are not necessarily applicable for you, and some of them may even be disabled. But anytime you create, the gist is that anytime you create a table, say we have this to-do thing, there's a bunch of things you can do with it. You can stream it, you can call aggregate on it, and then you can delete it and all that, right? And how do you control for the fact that so people don't randomly mess with your data? You do it with a permission control system. So you, in fact, I can turn off access to all the to-do items for the anonymous user, so people that's not logged in. And if they're logged in, I can limit so that I'm just going to turn it back on because this data is all useless anyways. If it is already logged in, you can change, let's say, let's do an example, right? You can only create to-do items that belong to you. So we could say that your input data's owner account is equal to login. That would be something you can do to limit that. Or you could say you can only delete the row if the doneness is true. You can only delete things that are true. Okay, so I've done that. So let's give it a try, right? Let me find myself a to-do item to delete. This one looks nice. So we'll do delete to-do, IPK, and yeah. Oh, by the way, you can invoke multiple things in one go if you really want. ID equals that. And this just returns everything for you. But let's get an ID out of it. What did we delete? Right, so this would actually create a new row and then delete the old row. So let's do that. So this should already be deleted. So let's go back. We were missing you see, that one is deleted already. Oh, that's actually changing everything to false. Sorry, I just changed everything to false and then tried to delete it. Oh, God. And I didn't deploy, so that rule wasn't in effect. We have to deploy. Anything you change on the back end has to be deployed for that to take effect. Anything you do on the front end, you can use the mirror to look at. So that should have been deployed already. And now, since I got rid of my precious, so everything's not done now. So I just changed everything back. Damn. So we use this thing called GraphQL, and it's a fairly common but somewhat new protocol to interact with the backend. So let's do that. So let's delete this guy. And it says no, right? Nothing is deleted because it doesn't exist. So if we try to delete 39, it should fail because nothing is... oh, did I actually set it? Ah, sorry. I set it for someone who's logged in, but I'm actually not logged in. Am I logged in? I am logged in. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have all these things tried out before I come here. Oh, God. Let's just to be safe. Let's set that for this guy as well. In to do, in delete. So we'll see the doneness is true. Okay. And we'll deploy that. That'll take a while. And in the meanwhile, we'll go to our to-do item. Let's try to delete 38. They should fail. If they don't, we have a bug. If we have a bug, that's pretty serious, and especially a bug in permission systems. That's not good. Okay. So I think that's because delete to-do items. Yeah, I think that's because this API wasn't properly... we have a problem with the API. Yeah, so let's see roles, affected roles. 37. Okay, we have a bug, and that's the danger of live demos. But it should not happen, and I'll figure out, and hopefully we'll get that fixed today. And last thing I want to talk about is why you would choose Momen. So if you have 1,000 users or more, and you're building a SaaS, you have tables with more than 1 million rows, you should be considering Momen because it is the performance is just vastly better than what you get on Bubble. And when I tried on Xano, it was better than Xano as well. And the other case is when Bubble is costing you a lot. I happen to know that Bubble's dedicated instance costs more than $3,000 a month. I think between 3 and 4. And I don't know how much they can handle, but we have had users that handled 120K daily active users on 3 core, which is $360 a month. And the other thing is, if you happen to enjoy a slightly better UI, we do pay attention. We're not perfect. There are things that I'm still not satisfied about, but we are fairly limited in terms of resources. Our dev team is 16 people in total. Bubble put on 12 people for their mobile offering alone. Oh, in terms of mobile offering, just to throw it out there, I talked to my colleagues, and then the people that are going to be building the native mobile app development thing. We have figured it would take no more than 6 men a month. That's the guess, but worst case, let's double that. That will be a 1 man year. Bubble took 12 man years to do it. I don't know why it took them so long. And yeah, so anyone else have any questions? We have 3 more minutes, and if you have questions you want to ask later, you can always find us in the Discord channel. So that'll be us. And if you ask, I'll answer. But if you don't ask, obviously I don't know what to answer. How do you get in here? You can find it here, user group, and then that takes you into the Discord. We're also building out the forum, but that will take another month to be online. Logs will be online this month. And yeah, it's about that. And you can try us out at this Momen.app, and you can try all the functionalities on free tier, except you can only have one of each. So thanks a lot for being here and sticking with me, and also witnessing one of my bugs. I shall go back and fix it very promptly, hopefully today. Gracias a todos. Bye.